Welcome to our deep dive, everybody. Today we're exploring some really cool, untold stories from space exploration. You guys have sent in some fascinating stuff, and I'm ready to get into it. We all know about the moon landing, sure, but what about the almost disasters, the things that could have gone wrong? Or, what about a secret Soviet Mars mission? Sounds exciting, right?
Yeah. Behind every big space achievement, there's a whole lot of drama, like near failures, workarounds, politics, and that's where the real story is. You might be surprised how close some of those missions were to total failure, to be honest.
So let's talk about that secret Soviet Mars mission. It's not exactly common knowledge. Early 1970s, the space race was super intense, and the Soviets, they were determined to beat the U.S. to Mars.
They were going for a Mars landing, a full-on landing. And think about it. They had very limited data back then. Oh, and they tried to do it during a massive dust storm that was ambitious even with the limited resources they had.
They really went all out with the tech, though. The Mars 3 lander had a heat shield, parachutes, retro rockets that was cutting edge for the time. And get this, they even had a small rover, the Prop M, way before Sojourner. Imagine, a rover on Mars in 1971.
Yeah, it's amazing. They were so close to making history. But then the signal died. Just 14 seconds, probably because of that dust storm. All that work and just a tiny bit of data. Kind of heartbreaking.
It makes you think, what if they had known about the storm?
Right. If they had shared data with the U.S. Mariner 9, which was watching the storm from orbit, things might have been different. Shows how important it is to work together, even when you're rivals, especially in space exploration.
For sure. Sometimes you just can't control everything. But let's talk about a mission that did succeed, even though it had some close calls. Apollo 11. Yeah, we know about the moon landing, but there were some really tense moments that people don't always talk about.
People forget how much of that landing was manual. They didn't have all the fancy computers we have now. Armstrong and Aldrin, they were basically relying on their skills to land on the moon. And with a computer less powerful than a smartphone.
Wow, that's wild. They must have had nerves of steel to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. They overshot the landing zone, had to switch to manual control last minute, alarm lights were going off, fuel was running low. Talk about pressure.
I can't even imagine. What do you think was going through their minds in those moments?
Armstrong, he was so calm, and his piloting skills were incredible. He really saved the day. It wasn't just luck, it was pure skill under pressure. And there's Buzz Aldrin. He was so quick on his feet.
You're talking about that broken switch, right?
Yep. That switch could have ended the mission right there. But Aldrin, he used a pen to fix it. Right. Talk about thinking outside the box.
Amazing. It shows you what humans can do, even in the toughest situations.
Yeah.
But it's easy to forget how risky it was. Yeah. Nixon even had a in case of failure speech ready.
Exactly. It was uncharted territory. They didn't know what they were going to face, and there was a chance they wouldn't come back. That takes serious courage.
From near disaster on Mars to a pretty incredible moon landing, space exploration is all about pushing limits. But what happens when a mission goes way beyond what anyone expected? Let's talk about the Voyager probes.
They were launched in 77, 5-year mission, supposed to explore the outer planets.
5 years, and they're still going. 46 years later, they're out there in interstellar space. That's just amazing.
It really shows you how good those engineers were back then. And the way they use gravity from the giant planets to, slingshot themselves outward, that's incredible.
You mean the gravity assist maneuver? It's always sounded kind of sci-fi to me, to be honest.
It's brilliant. They use the gravity of Jupiter, Saturn, those big planets, to speed up and change direction.
So instead of fighting gravity, they use it to their advantage.
Exactly, like a cosmic slingshot. It's how they've traveled billions of kilometers, going tens of thousands of kilometers per hour.
Wow. I can't even picture that, those distances. It takes days for a signal to get to them, and even longer to hear back. But they're still sending data from the edge of the solar system.
And think about it, they were built with 70s tech. Still working, still teaching us about the universe. It's pretty incredible.
And they're carrying those golden records, right? Images, sounds from Earth. Like a message in a bottle for anyone out there.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? It shows how curious we are, how we want to connect with something beyond ourselves. Who knows? Maybe someday someone will find them.
It makes you wonder, what would they think of us?
That's a question for the ages, right? Goes to the heart of the whole mystery of space.
For the Voyager probes, way out there. Let's come back to Earth for a bit. Yeah. To the International Space Station, orbiting our planet. It's a symbol of what humans can do when we cooperate, I think.
It wasn't easy getting it up there, though. Budget problems, changes in plans, And then the Soviet Union collapsed, which threw everything for a loop.
It's a wonder it happened at all.
But it did, and it shows how dedicated all those people were. The U.S. and Russia, they went from rivals to partners, all to build this thing.
Space exploration can bring people together, even when there are big differences between them.
It makes you think, though, what were the real reasons? Some say the U.S. got involved to stop Russian scientists from going to other countries, maybe even rivals.
So it was partly about science and partly about, global politics.
Exactly. The ISS, it wasn't just a science project, it was part of the whole world situation back then.
Makes you realize space exploration is connected to everything else that's going on.
It is. But even with all that, the ISS is a huge achievement. A symbol of how humans can work together, even when things are tough.
It's like a stepping stone to the future, to going to Mars and beyond.
Absolutely. All the things we've learned from the ISS about living in space, about working together, that's all going to be crucial for future missions.
It started with that dream of reaching the stars, the same dream that drove Yuri Gagarin, Neil Armstrong, all those pioneers who made everything else possible. It's inspiring, to think about their courage, facing the unknown like that.
And it wasn't just them, right? There are so many talented people behind the scenes, the engineers, scientists, technicians. They make it all happen.
Totally. They solve the problems, build the spacecraft, keep everyone safe. They don't always get the credit they deserve.
Right. And they're always innovating, figuring things out. Remember that Mars 3 mission with the dust storm? That failure taught us so much, and it helped future missions succeed.
It shows you, sometimes you learn more from the things that go wrong. And then you have the Voyager probes. They've changed everything we thought we knew about the outer solar system.
Oh, the pictures they sent back, Jupiter's great red spot, Saturn's rings, the moons of Uranus and Neptune. It's mind-blowing. And they've taught us about planetary atmospheres, magnetic fields, even interstellar space.
All that from tech that was built in the 70s.
It's incredible, isn't it? The Voyager team, they were visionaries. They built something that could not only survive in space, but keep going and going, way longer than anyone thought possible.
And those golden records. It's like a message from Earth floating out there in the universe.
It shows you something about us humans, doesn't it? We're curious, we want to connect. And who knows, maybe someday someone will find those records. Even if they don't, it's a powerful symbol.
To think they could be out there for millions of years. It makes you feel pretty small.
It does. And it makes you think about all those big questions. Time, space, other life out there. The things that humans have always wondered about.
That's what keeps us exploring, right? Trying to understand those big mysteries. It's why we landed on the moon, sent probes to the edge of the solar system.
And it's just the beginning. There's so much more out there. We're going back to the moon, going to Mars, maybe even further. And every time we learn something new.
We stand on the shoulders of giants, right? All those who came before us who dared to dream big. They showed us what's possible.
Absolutely. And it's our turn now to keep pushing the boundaries, to keep exploring. Because space, it's full of wonders, and we're just starting to understand it.
Well, this has been an incredible journey. We've covered some amazing stories today, from secret missions to probes traveling beyond our solar system.
And we've only scratched the surface. There's so much more out there to discover. But for now, I think it's time to say goodbye.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the secrets of space exploration. Remember, keep looking up, keep wondering, and never stop exploring.